I've been beginning to search for her, my birth mother, not for her as a person on this earth, a name or address, but the feeling of her, because it is so faint, maybe even non-existent, or at least undetectable to my own conscious awareness as of now, but really my whole life. Just a little context, I was adopted at 5 months old from rural China 29 years ago. The one-child policy and the international adoption business was at its peak. This, I'm sure, falls somewhere between a trauma response and also the good fortune of having an amazing adopted mother, who I just considered to be my mom in general, but I've spent very little of my time and energy thinking about my birth mother, my biological family, my mother country, my forgotten home language, the one-child policy, and my adoption in general for most of my life. As a child and adolescent, the story I told myself in my head was that she was dead, and in turn, I really didn't have any perceptible feelings about it until I had these false pregnancy delusions or hallucinations during my first psychotic episode. I had these visual and emotional and even physical hallucinations that I was pregnant. At one point, I took a photo of my abdomen to prove that the image I saw in the mirror was real. Later, it proved to be a normal, non-pregnant stomach, but in my soul, I forced those doctors at the hospital to give me a pregnancy test. I really thought I knew, but it did come back negative. During the time I was convinced or deluded, I really did feel a true connection to that non-existent baby. When I came out of the delusion, I had this realization, though, that my birth mother had to have loved or felt deeply about me while she was pregnant, and most likely every day, if not every moment after we were separated. I realized the idea of me probably did not feel dead or immaterial to her, as she has to me for the past 30 years. I realized after caring, nurturing, creating an organism inside your own body for 9 months and then going through the physical and emotional trauma of pushing them from the inside of your body into the great wide world, a woman does not feel nothing towards that organism, towards that child, even or especially if they're torn from their lives forever. But it doesn't make sense to me now, as I've built this webbed universe of parsed together spirituality that combines metaphysics, true physics, nature and animal science, indigenous wisdom, and my own observations, learnings, and conjectures about the world, people, and the universe. And my intellectual and emotional concept of death is that it doesn't really exist as an atheist would conceptualize it. Given ideas around the conservation of matter and energy, especially on the planet Earth itself, my woo-woo belief is that energies from a collective consciousness reincarnate in different combinations through generations of time and physical form with each other. I don't believe your beloved grandparent comes back to life as your baby, but I do believe or hope that we travel through the universe, space, and time with soul communities and soul families, where we are constantly dying and being reborn as fractured and reassembled pieces of one another. My adopted father, who I had a complicated relationship with, died August of this year. He was the creator, artist, engineer behind these technical drawings of a 3-dimensional clock that tracked the actual movement and position of the sun, earth, and moon. He actually built the working clock. Anyway, I have felt my dad's spirit, if you want to call it, my adopted dad, fairly strongly at times after his earthly death. Like while my sister, uncle, and I uncovered these drawings underneath his bed while cleaning out his house. If I can feel my dad, my adopted dad, even when I know for a fact he has passed on, why can't I feel any string connecting me to my biological mother, even if she had died on Earth? The only time I can think of where I felt her presence was also the first time I was hospitalized for my mania/psychosis. When I was strapped to a gurney, wrist and all, being wheeled into the ward I would be treated at, my overwhelming feeling was that I was a baby bird looking for my mother, like some sort of imprinting phenomenon going on. I think I asked every woman, nurse, secretaries, doctors if they were my mother, regardless of their race or appearance. To me, it felt like they all could be. It was like I was surrounded all around by my mother, and maybe that was her energy. If she is still alive, I can't imagine she doesn't think of me, and if she has passed, I do believe her spirit is out there somewhere, and we've met before, and we will meet again. In my spiritual framework, emotions and the energy that travels through the neurochemical channels of our bodies into the outside world are these powerful threads that connect people and souls across time and distance and maybe even earthly mortality. So I'm looking for those energies inside me so I can possibly connect to her, at least that part of myself at some point. I don't think this is something that can be forced, but it's certainly an interesting and rich question, an inquiry I'm excited and terrified to explore.